Right now.
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 Because it's time to right now.
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 Because it's time to right now.
Right now.
Right
Right now.
now.
Right 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 now.
Because it's time to right now.
Right now.
Right now.
Welcome, my friends, to another daily writing stream. I'm Kaufman, and today we're going to try to get in some writing, as we do every other day, every single day. So I'm working on some earlier chapters as I'm going through a third draft of Scarecrow, hopefully getting some of these chapters ready for feedback. So I've been doing a live reading, but mostly, oh man, so I'm like yawning over here. Like, welcome to the stream. Let's go to sleep. So I'm gonna work on Scarecrow. Feel free to come join along, whether you want to listen in or just kick back. All right. So this is the I'm working on this chapter. And we're going to see what we're going to see. Like I said, this is the third draft I'm working on. So in this draft, it's more reading it aloud to myself to fix like minor line edits or style fixes and see if there's things that stand out to me. So right now, Scarecrow is with these two creatures, Hand and Foot. As he's traveling through New City to find the Tin Wizard. So let's see just how this chapter sounds. Chapter 8, Trial by Monstrosity. The crossroad trailed off in 4 distinct directions. To their right, the dirt road led to a large open courtyard surrounded by destruction, while the left path's narrow road was wedged between ruins, threatening to collapse at any moment. Hand and Foot halted on the other side of the fountain. "What are you waiting for?" Hand demanded. "We're not going to walk ourselves to glory." Yeah, that quote doesn't make sense. What are you waiting for?" Hand demanded. We're not going to walk ourselves to the Tin Wizard." Scarecrow raised an eyebrow at the irony of the question, but quickly hurried around the fountain. He glanced at the etchings of hands carved into the stonework on the fountain's top layer. The hands were swimming around a tower, or maybe they were fighting. Hard to tell. He tried to fathom a society of talking hands and feet, conversing, living, and thriving. He tried to fathom a society of hands and feet, conversing, living, and thriving, but the idea made him chuckle. The base of the red tower, now within walking distance, felt reachable, despite being at the end of the street. Hand drummed its fingers impatiently as Scarecrow hurried around the fountain. Just after passing the fountain's threshold, smack. Scarecrow bounced off a transparent barrier and fell to the ground. A dark red aura shimmered momentarily, blocking the path forward. Hand and Foot fell to the ground, rolling about, while Hand was dying of laughter. I can't believe he fell for that one, Foot." Hand slammed the ground as Foot rolled back and forth. Scarecrow sat up, rubbing his head confused. "I thought the Tin Wizard was in danger." "That he is," Hand said between bursts of laughter. "After surviving," more laughter, "100,000 rotations of mass," even more laughter, "you just laugh." The laughter ceased. Hand rose to its palm and saluted Foot, which Hand rose. Hand rose to its palm and saluted foot, which bowed its knee at Scarecrow. Scarecrow nodded, hoping that was the right response. Hand rose to its palm and saluted foot, which bowed its knee at Scarecrow. Scarecrow nodded, hoping that was the right response. Don't need that. Foot scurried off toward the red tower as Hand recrossed the shimmering aura and leapt onto Scarecrow's shoulder. So hurry up and prove your worth already. Scarecrow brushed himself off and rose to his feet. A quick glance over his shoulder indicated he was still leaking bits of stuffing. He gulped. Another problem for later. Directing his attention to the paths on either side of the fountain, he looked to Hand for guidance. Hand shrugged, remaining silent. Scarecrow picked the safer-looking path on the left toward the open courtyard and started forward. He realized something, stopped and looked over to Hand. What if something happens to the Tin Wizard before we reach him? Hand crossed two fingers. Assuming you reach him, Scarecrow. If it's too late, we've wasted many lifetimes, and every living thing is dead anyway. Hand cackled and pulled at Scarecrow's ear. Do dead things care, Strawbrain? Scarecrow shivered as the deathly field of his awakening flashed through his mind. Instead, he asked, Scarecrow shivered as he was reminded of the deathly field of his awakening. Instead, he asked, "You sure you don't know Mr. Crow? He was the only one to call me Straw. Help!" A mechanical, high-pitched shriek pierced the air. Scarecrow turned. The call echoed from the opposite path, wedged between the precariously slanted ruins. Scarecrow glanced at Hand, who merely shrugged and plopped down onto his shoulder. The cry for help came again. Scarecrow bolted toward the noise. "I'm coming," he shouted, hands cupped around his mouth. Someone needs help. It doesn't feel right to leave them in peril. The cry for help came again. Scarecrow bolted toward the noise. "I'm coming," he shouted, hands cupped around his mouth. Someone needs help. It doesn't feel right to leave them in peril. Scarecrow reasoned with Hand, who remained silent. I'm just thinking of something for this next chapter that I'm working on. Let's see. All right, Scarecrow reasoned with Hand, who muttered, simply muttered. All right, so let's try that again. So the cry for help came again. Scarecrow bolted toward the noise. I'm coming, he shouted, hands cupped around his mouth. Someone needs help. It doesn't feel right to leave them in peril, Scarecrow reasoned. Hand muttered, bodies are fountains that forget how to float. Scarecrow scratched his head, glancing sideways at the fountain. But the cry for help came again, prompting him down the narrow path. Ruined frames of structures towered high overhead, casting shadows across the path. Damaged boxes holding various materials appeared on either side. The voice, still unfamiliar to Scarecrow's ears, cried out a third time. The path opened up into a wide, cluttered market. Barren stalls made the place feel empty, while a myriad of strange objects lay scattered in pieces. There were boxes of things he recognized, like fruits, vegetables, and wheat, mixed with boxes of things unfamiliar, yet similar to the creator's strange materials. In the dead center of the area, a bodiless foot, identical to the previous one, lay motionless atop a circular mass of tiny blood-red crystals clumped together. The crystals appeared to spring from the ground, but it was difficult to make out at this distance. Scarecrow. A deep-seated desire. Pull. A deep-seated desire. Pull. No. Longing lulled him forward. He craved. No. He must be closer. The ruined scenery around him faded away. Nothing else mattered. One more step. Closer still. Alive. Those tiny, perfectly crafted blood-red crystals tugged at every strand of straw in his body. Just reach out. Almost. There. Slap. To the face. Sent him stumbling back. Scarecrow shook his head. He was on the ground a few feet away from the foot and the crystals. A damaged crate with fruit strewn about lay nearby. When did he cross the market? Hand stood on the ground. Are you deaf? I said, do not touch them. I'm sorry, Scarecrow stuttered. I don't understand what happened. Hand swatted in at the air in frustration, turned her foot. What did you do? Hello, earth to lefty, this shouldn't be. The foot vibrated and swung in a wide arc, hitting Hand, who crashed in a nearby structure, the remains of it coming down in a cacophony of smoke and dust. The foot rose off the ground, vibrating, trembling even. Gusts of wind picked up like a tornado, the foot at its center. A damaged crate slid across the ground as the stall collapsed. The once quiet market was no more. Scarecrow crawled back as broken boxes, fruits, vegetables, and materials rolled past him. The dirt around his hands trembled. Torn chunks of dirt rose from the earth and flew towards the whirlwind's epicenter. Try as he might to crawl away, he was quickly being pulled back. Damaged crates flew past him, a melon hitting him in the face. He groaned as the increased winds dragged him backwards. Swinging his arms aside, he latched onto a nearby stall. Colorful fabrics flew past his head, while clumps of dirt and debris tumbled along. He grimaced as a chunk of stuffing flew out of his leg, along with more straw. The air pressure intensified. Scarecrow gritted his teeth. The wooden pole he clung to wobbled. The stall was on the verge of collapse. One at a time, his fingers were letting go. Too late. The pole cracked as he flew away. But the wind ceased, and he dropped to the ground, falling flat on his stomach. Breathing deeply, Scarecrow rolled onto his back. Hand, are you okay? He trailed off as his gaze landed on a monstrosity. Staring him directly in the face was a creature unlike anything he had ever seen, made entirely out of the crates, tattered sheets, and rotten produce from the market. There were holes in the sheets for eyes, while the pieces of rotten fruit made for a twisted-looking smile strewn across its face. Parts of the foot could be seen at the base of the monstrosity. The creature floated into the air. Scarecrow picked himself up, eyeing it wearily. He brushed himself off, caught up in a peculiar staring contest with the creature. Moving in any direction caused the monstrosity's unfaltering gaze to follow him. I'm sorry to disturb you. Scarecrow tilted his head, not quite certain who or what he was addressing. The rubble where Hen had crashed was on the opposite side of the creature. He shuffled sideways cautiously, the monstrosity's gaze following. Scarecrow inched forward, the air tense. He stopped. Despite the strangeness of the creature, he didn't feel fear. Perhaps concern? Were you the one calling out for help, Mr. Monstrosity? It hovered high in the air, not face level. With a tilted head, it whispered, "Boo!" Out of reflex, Scarecrow flicked it on the nose. "Shame on you for trying to scare me. What did I ever do to you?" The thing froze, shock spreading across its misshapen face as the monstrosity dropped to the ground, landing with a clink against the mound of blood-red crystals. It trembled and shook violently. Scarecrow stumbled back, now uncertain of his actions. The trembling ceased. The crystals on the ground glowed a dull red hue, flooding the market with a strange light. The monstrosity rose into the air, this time tethered to the mound of crystals like a leash. The tattered cheeks for eyes reopened, a red glow emanating from deep within them. Like pupils, the rotten grin widened, opening into a mouth. A bright red glow intensified from within. "Scarecrow, run!" Han's muffled voice crawled out. He dove aside as a chunk of crystal-infused wood shot out of its mouth and pierced a nearby structure. Shot out of the monstrosity's mouth and pierced a nearby structure. The entire structure rumbled, smoked, and disintegrated into a pile of blood-red crystals. Scarecrow scurried away as another projectile flew past his shoulder, landing on the ground, creating another mound of tiny blood-red crystals. Scarecrow scurried away as another projectile flew past his shoulder, smashed to the ground, and smashed to the ground, creating another mound. Smashed to the ground, creating another mound of tiny blood-red crystals. He dashed toward the path he had come from. A quick head turn, and he ducked just in time to avoid another attack, which collapsed the structure before him. Materials and rugs were scattered in all directions. He fell to the ground, disoriented. The monstrosity turned toward him. I do capitalize monstrosity. He fell to the ground, disoriented. The monstrosity turned toward him. He backed away, bumping into more ruins, a wall of rubble on either side. Scarecrow tried to reach for something, anything, but his mind raced. He fumbled for a tattered quilt, which had rolled out of the rubble as the monstrosity's red-eyed gaze locked onto him. Breathing heavily, he gripped his chest. Something pounded fiercely deep within. His hand shook. His forehead was drenched. What was this feeling? Lips trembling and eyes wide at the realization. Fear. That's what the strange feeling was. The same that he had experienced when finding the dead scarecrows, but this time it was for his own well-being. He felt frozen in place. Those deep red eyes lusted, craved, desired him. Come. Its unnatural mouth opened. Two. A bloody red mass lit up, rumbling within. Me. Scarecrow covered his face as the monstrosity's attack let loose. The bloody red crystals descending upon him. "Help!" he screamed. A shockwave of air erupted from the fingertips of his right hand. The quilt flopped to life and swung out before him, rebounding the monstrosity's attack back at it. The red, glowing eyes closed as a high-pitched shriek escaped its unnatural mouth. Scarecrow covered his ears. The noise was deafening at first, but ended abruptly. He dropped his hands. Before he could act, the multicolored quilt clotheslined Scarecrow into the rubble as the monstrosity exploded. All right, and let's see. That was that chapter. I feel like, feel like it's pretty good. I think some of the actions can probably be cleaned up a little bit, but we'll see. We'll see if it's clear enough. And then I'm pretty sure there's only 2 more chapters in Act 1 now. If you thought Chapter 9, Trial by Fire, if you thought this market was ruined before, now it was a disaster. The surrounding structures had all but collapsed. Hey, what's up, Shadow? Welcome. If you thought this market was ruined before, now it was a disaster. The surrounding structures had all but collapsed, while torn fabrics, smashed fruit, and cracked materials lay scattered. Rays of sunlight streamed down, the clear sky gleaming profusely. The shimmering orange aura glimmered just out of the city's reach. A quilt, twice its size with multicolored patches, flew around him continuously. A quilt twice the size with multicolored patches flew around him continuously. Some patches were bright and colorful, while others were frayed or charred beyond recognition. The edges of the quilt were adorned with white tassels that seemed to shift in color depending on the light. Thank you kindly, quilt. I hope that's your name. Quilt landed on the ground, raised its upper half, and bent both corners down, imitating a shrug. I wish I understood what you were saying, though, Scarecrow said, perplexed by the strange creature. Quilt folded itself. I don't think we need that. Let's see. Let's change this. I didn't know quilts. I didn't know quilts could move. Could move or fly like you do. Scarecrow said, perplexed by the strange creature. Quilt folded itself onto the ground like an accordion before rising into the air. Its lower half was reshaped into 2 legs. Scarecrow raised a hand in the air while Quilt twisted a top tussle in a vain attempt at imitation. Let's see. Scarecrow fumbled finger. Scarecrow played with the quilts. With the quilts tassels. as Scarecrow played with the quilt's tassels. Is it Quilt folded itself onto the ground like an accordion before rising into the air. Its lower half was reshaped into 2 legs. Let's fix this. It then raised one tasseled edge into the air near Scarecrow. It then raised one tasseled edge before Scarecrow's face. His face with a wave. Until Scarecrow waved back. Until he waved back. Quilt folded itself onto the ground like an accordion before rising into the air. Its lower half was reshaped into 2 legs. It then raised one tasseled edge before Scarecrow's face with a wave until he waved back. Gonna keep playing handsy with the quilt, or should we wait for the world to end first? Hans' robotic voice cut through the silence. A half-destroyed crate slid to the bottom of a rubble pile, revealing 3 of Hans' fingers sticking out. Quilt flew to hand, wrapped itself around the visible fingers, and pulled. With a thunk, Hand popped loose as Quilt flew it into the air before depositing it on the ground and continuing to circle him. Here we thought the demon got you, buddy, Hand murmured. Quilt stopped circling, landed, and pointed to the rubble. Hen poked at one of Quilt's tassels. Turns out you've been hiding under a rock while I do all the work. Hen crossed its fingers while Quilt floated to the ground, trembling. Scarecrow stepped forward, interjecting. Is this blanket a friend of yours? Quilt, and I wouldn't say friends, Han began. Quilt shriveled in a ball, rolling around in circles. Han raised itself up, groaning. Fine, we're friends. You. Quilt hopped off the ground, wrapping itself around Han in what must have been a hug. Han shooed Quilt away. All right, Tin is in trouble. Again, a pleasure to meet you, Quilt. Scarecrow picked himself up and bowed. He didn't know where that came from, but somehow it felt right. Scarecrow picked himself up and bowed. He didn't know He didn't know where that gesture came from, but somehow it felt right. Quilt extended a frayed tassel. Quilt extended a frayed tassel forward. Scarecrow peered at it questioningly until Scarecrow Nice, Shadow. Glad you're able to get some progress on your end. Hey, what's up, LeMay? Welcome, friends. I'm just doing a read aloud of this part of Scarecrow right now. All right. All right. Okay. Onwards and upwards. Where were we at? So I don't think we need this. I think we do this whole handshake bit, but I don't think that's necessary. Hmm. Hmm. Hey, what's up, Dark Fable? I'm just reviewing this chapter. Hmm. Mm-mm. All right, I know what needs to happen. All right, I had to kind of go back, catch up. All right, so I think that's the end of that first opening beat of this chapter. Let's see if it makes sense. If he thought this market was ruined before, now it was a disaster. The surrounding structures had all but collapsed, while torn fabric, smashed fruit, and cracked materials lay scattered. Rays of sunlight streamed down, the clear sky gleaming profusely. The shimmering orange aura glimmered just out of the city's reach. A quilt, twice his size, with multicolored patches, flew around him continuously. Some patches were bright and colorful, while others were frayed or charred beyond recognition. The edges of the quilt were adorned with white tassels that seemed to shift in color depending on the light. Thank you kindly, Quilt. I hope that's your name. Quilt landed on the ground, raised its upper half, and bent both corners down, imitating a shrug. I didn't know quilts could move, fly like you do, Scarecrow said, perplexed by the strange creature. Quilt folded itself onto the ground like an accordion before rising into the air. Its lower half was reshaped into legs. Its lower half was reshaped, folded itself in onto the ground like an accordion. I don't think this action's necessary. Okay, I can fix it. Scarecrow said, perplexed by the strange creature as he reached out a hand to touch it. The quilt responded by bringing a tasseled edge. Quilt responded by bringing a tasseled edge before Scarecrow's face with a wave, until he waved back. Gonna keep playing handsy with the quilt, or should we wait for the world to end first? Han's robotic voice cut through the silence. A half-destroyed crate slid to the bottom of a rubble pile, revealing 3 of Han's fingers sticking out. Quilt flew to Hand, wrapped around the fingers and pulled. With a thunk, Hand popped loose as Quilt flew it into the air before depositing it on the ground and continued to circle them. Here we thought the demon got you, buddy, Hand murmured. Quilt stopped circling, landed, and pointed to the rubble. Hen poked at one of Quilt's tassels. Turns out you've been hiding under a rock while I do all the work. So you've been hiding under a rock while I do all the work. Hen crossed its fingers while Quilt floated to the ground, trembling. Scarecrow stepped forward, interjecting. Is this blanket a friend of yours? Quilt. And I wouldn't quite say friends. Han began. Quilt shriveled in a ball, rolling around in circles. Han raised itself up, groaning. Fine, we're friends. You. Quilt hopped off the ground, wrapping itself around Hand in a tight embrace. Han shooed Quilt away. All right. Tina's in trouble and we've got problems. Han crawled to the smoking remnants of the monstrosity's remains. The mass of bloody red crystals were gone. Some charred remains of the motionless foot smoldered. The charred, motionless foot smoldered. Blasted lefty. Hand curled its fingers into a fist and pounded Foot's remains. After all these centuries. I'm sorry about your friend. Hand spun around, pointing at Scarecrow's nose. You failed. He clenched his fingers, and we're out of time. Hand crawled to the edge of Foot and triple tapped it. The charred remains of Foot lit up in a bright burst of white lights and disintegrated. Hand snapped. Scarecrow leaned down. Hand jumped on his shoulder, plopped himself down, and nodded. Scarecrow glanced back at the marketplace. A disaster left in their wake. He noted all the straw lying scattered about before picking himself up and moving onward, hand on his shoulder and Quilt flying beside him. All right, and that's good for that first beat of the chapter. Hey, what's up, Cap? You're like, man, rough day. Sorry about that. Hopefully your day is going to get a little easier with some more creativity, my friend. All right, so As Scarecrow walked up the dirt path between more overhanging ruins, he peered down at himself. The straw and stuffing both of his legs were nearly depleted. Any more rolling about, and he might not be walking much longer. He lifted his coat up. His torso had clear holes, so much so that he might be able to stick a finger through one. Neither of his forearms seemed to fare much better. At least he had both of his arms. He flexed his fingers. They felt strong. He flexed his fingers, feeling the wrapped vines around. He flexed his fingers, feeling the vines wrapped around. He flexed his fingers, feeling the vine wrapped ligaments, vine wrapped. God, what am I? What's the name for it? The vine wrapped. Oh my God, why am I having a brain fart? He flexed his fingers, feeling the vine-wrapped digits. They felt strong and in good shape. He brushed past, and we got rid of this. He grabbed the brim of his hat with a sigh of relief, still resting on his head, and it was still resting on his head in one piece. And we don't need that. He hoped. He glanced up at the red tower. He glanced up at the red tower overhead. Worried about Mr. Crow. He glanced up at the red tower overhead, worried about Mr. Crow. Shouldn't he have seen him? Shouldn't he have spotted him by now? All right. He leaned over to Quilt and asked, "Have you by chance spotted a small black crow about this big?" He clumsily used his hands to approximate the bird's size. He clumsily used his hands to approximate. Have you by chance spotted a small black crow flying about? Flying somewhere around here? We got separated. Or he glanced up at the red tower overhead, worried about Mr. Crow. Shouldn't he have spotted him by now? He leaned over to Quilt and asked, "Have you by chance spotted a small black crow about this big?" He clumsily used his hands to approximate size. Flying somewhere around here. We got separated. Or more like he got abandoned. Hard to say. Hard to tell. Or more like he got separated. Hard to tell. Quilt folded itself into a clunky Quilt folded itself into a clunky origami, into a clunky looking bird. Quilt folded itself into a clunky looking bird. and flew around Scarecrow's head. It then returned to its original form and pointed up at the red tower. All right, and then we can cut a little bit of stuff we didn't need there, which was good. All right, that's good. Okay. Maybe Mr. Crow already found the Tin Wizard, Scarecrow exclaimed to Hand, who shrugged with fingers crossed and slumped over. Scarecrow tapped Hand's knuckles, but was promptly ignored. Scarecrow tapped Hand's knuckles, but was promptly ignored. Scarecrow exclaimed to Hand, who shrugged with fingers crossed and slumped over. Scarecrow tapped Hand's knuckles, but was promptly ignored. He felt bad for the little guy. Who knew he could feel bad for a hand? Who knew he could? He felt bad for Hand. The creature's demeanor had continued to sink in. The creature's demeanor darkened step by step since leaving the market. Quilt wrapped around his back like a slingshot, urging him to pick up the pace. Quilt wrapped around his back like a slingshot, urging him to pick up the pace. Guess we'd better figure out how to get up there then. Scarecrow exclaimed enthusiastically. Scarecrow exclaimed as he picked up the pace. He jogged along until they reached another crossroads with a dried up fountain at its center. All right, and then this is the next bit. All right, and I think that's a good stop. So that's what, about 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, so at the beginning of that chapter is about 4 pages, which that's not horrible. Okay. Okay, so I feel pretty good about that. I feel like I was able to get a good little push in today. I didn't have as much time as I would normally like, but I'm glad I was able to push. I hope you were able to make some progress on your storytelling as well. And of course, once again, for those of you who want to know more about The Last Scarecrow, the website is officially up and live. thelastscarecrow.com. livestreams.com. So very simple if you want to know more about the book or you want to sign up for updates for the Scarecrow newsletter. So coming along pretty good. Thanks all for joining me today. I feel like I was able to make a good little push at the beginning of the chapter. Should finish up draft 3 of Act 1 probably next week. And then I'll probably continue on draft 2, which is about 70%. So we'll see what we see, my friends. That's all that I got for you today. I'll be back tomorrow for a writing update stream, probably a little earlier in the day. I'm going to be announcing the Freaky Friday writers, the semifinalists who made it to the Freaky Friday. So I'll be announcing which stories made it and are going to be published in the anthology. So it'll be super exciting, and we're going to have some huge updates and announcement for our next major writing event, the Right Now-a-thon, which is going to be one of the biggest undertakings we've ever attempted with the Right Now community, and it's going to be epic. If you missed out on the previous Right Now-a-thon, you can always check out last year's. It was really fun. It's linked down in the YouTube description. But that's all that I got. Hopefully you're able to get in some more writing. If you want to get some more work in, go join us in the Discord, link down in the YouTube description. If you want to go start a co-working session. So, yeah, that's all that I got. Thanks all for joining. But unfortunately, that brings us to the end of the stream. Don't forget, words are wind, but stories are forever. I'm Kaufman, and I'll catch you on the morrow. Stay creative, writers. Words are wind, but stories are forever. I'm Kaufman, and I'll catch you on the morrow. Stay creative, writers. It's time to write.
Right now.
Sorry.
Right now, not right now, but right now. Read now, right now.